Well, good afternoon from the UK. I'm the Noble Q. This is a stream of World of Warplanes, but it's a special one because we're going to be looking at the new reward aircraft, the Northrop P-61 Black Widow, and here she is behind me, the result of 9 days hard grinding. And we're just going to move obs off to one side. We'll just get some first impressions of the aircraft. Let's just pull that over there. Now, you'll have to forgive me. The stream is quite a long way behind my live broadcast to you. So I'm not sure whether the chat's up to date or not. I may be lagging in answers. Just bear with me. So, the Northrop P-61 Black Widow. Here we are. Special livery. And if you're wondering how I've got rid of all of the controls on the UI, that's Control H. And if we look from above, I hadn't realised this until very recently. It's actually a spider's web for the Black Widow. Go on the wings, spider's web. And the next thing is there's the dorsal turret, which can fire in very many directions. I'm not quite sure it actually fires forward. Well, it must have fired forwards because it's actually locked in forward position there. And I understand that it could be locked in that position and fired by the pilot, and in other positions by the other members of the crew. There were 3 crew, but I listed only 2 in this game. Now you may be wondering, where are the forward firing guns? Well, that took me a while to work out, but they're actually just there. And you can't see them very well because of the way that the wheel obscures them. But there they are. You can probably just see that gun there. Okay, so whilst we're talking about livery, what does that confer? Well, it's pretty. More spider's web there. And it conveys 5% crew experience, aircraft experience. So no speed benefit, which would have been nice. And none of the multiple benefits that some of the camouflages that are being sold in the shops now with 4 characteristics have. But it's nice enough. The nose, standard 5% crew experience, and the emblem, I'm afraid, a standard 2% crew experience. Now, once you've got this specialised, I do implore you to go and tick this, accelerate crew training, which I've already done. That's rare for me. I normally play 2 or 3 battles before I realise and accumulate some experience on the aircraft and then have to convert it using gold into free experience. Not this occasion. Once you've ticked that, if you really want to screw the maximum amount of your livery, and you have this emblem that I'm about to show you, which is the Wargaming's World of Warplanes team's 7th birthday emblem. This 7th birthday emblem, and it's that one, gives you 5% aircraft experience. Now, of course, if you've ticked convert aircraft experience to crew experience, that will go to train your crew. So you may want to put that emblem on, but we won't do that. In fact, I have done that, so we'll leave it at B now, but, since it's a superior emblem. Okay, so we've located the guns. We've had a look at the aircraft. Next thing we're going to do is take a look at the statistics of this mean machine. And they're quite interesting. So I'm going to bring a spreadsheet into play. I'm going to show it to you. Bear with me. There we go. Now I'm in the way, so the next thing to do is actually get me out of the way. Or some people would love to do that. Small in the corner. Now, I have a video on my YouTube channel that explains how this spreadsheet works by and large. If you're not sure how the spreadsheet works, bear with it whilst I go through it, but then go and have a look at that instructional video and it will tell you how this spreadsheet works. Suffice to say that the Black Widow is in columns C and D, and all of the other Tier 8 heavies are in their own 2 columns each, off to the right there. And then the information that you can see in the hangar UI is here. Plus it's supplemented by some information from GameModels3D.com, specifically on the guns, specifically referring to these characteristics here: the auto angle, dispersion angle, overheat time, and shell velocity. So let's start with the key feature of the aircraft, gun armament. What does it look like? Well, at first blush, it doesn't look like great news because the rating's only 30 and the cumulative DPS is a fairly small, low 480. If we drop down and have a look at the worst in class figures, we'll see that that's 3rd worst in class rating and 2nd worst in class DPS. That said, The rating is similar to the twin Mustangs. Well, certainly the F-82E twin Mustang, and also the file, although the file is a little bit of an oddity insofar as it has a sniper cannon. But there's more to it than this. Just step through the four 20mm guns, 120 DPS each, given the 480. Rate of fire 420, which is quite healthy. Range is sort of okay, 2,493 feet, pretty standard. It's not great, but it's not bad either. But then the interesting stuff starts happening. And here we have it. The auto-aim angle is a generous 3 degrees. And this is more, considering these are cannons, this is more like some of the auto-aim angles on machine guns that you get. 3 degrees means you can be off target by 3 degrees and the game will correct your aim and you will still hit your target. So that's good news straight away. And then the next thing is that you've got a really good dispersion angle. The way that the bullets spread out as they leave the muzzle of your gun, it's a tight cone. 0.4 degrees is excellent for cannons. And the overheat time, it's really good news here. 12 seconds on cannons is excellent. So you may have a fairly low DPS, but you've got quite a high burst damage because you can fire those guns for quite a long time, and they are accurate guns as well, or at least on the face of it. And finally, the last bit of good news is that the shell velocity is really high, 1,604 feet, same as the Pancake, for instance, here, which means that you've got pretty much guns that remind me very much of the Pancake's guns as they were in 2018. And if you got the right skills on your pilot and you used the gun sight and you used all the accuracy that you could get from the bonus characteristics as well as ramping it up to ultimate level equipment and calibrated, you're going to have guns that are like laser pointers potentially. So I'm interested to see how this works out. So it's not an XP54. It doesn't have brutal DPS and a long overheat time. But it does have that long overheat time, and it has what appears to be super accuracy. There's also that dorsal turret, which gives you, in theory, the game lists it as 112.7mm M2. It looks more like 450 cals to me, but there you go. 128 DPS, 2,297 feet range, which is okayish. It's pretty much the same turrets in theory as that are on the XP Chain Lightning and the BVP 203. However, it will join in following firing occasionally, but it's hard to make it do that on demand. So it could fire forwards for you, it may not. It will also fire upwards as well, so you can continue hitting aircraft, perhaps when you're in a turn with them. So it looks like it's a fairly decent turret. Ordnance, there isn't any. This has no ground attacking capability, so we'll skip straight over that. And then we come to the first of the best-in-class figures, and it's 21 rating, 700 hit points. And I can't see chat, by the way, so I'm just going to quickly look at chat and see if there's anything I'm missing. Hello, Cleeks. Hello, I've already said hello, Flying Dutchman. Chat delay is 22 seconds. Thank you very much, Tillhammer. Skunkbeard, it's very manoeuvrable. Yeah, I haven't absolutely maxed it out for manoeuvrability. We'll talk about that in a moment. As you can hear, Flying Dutchman has got it up to 72. You're going to be able to get it up to 61 without even trying. If you really try with standard equipment, you're going to be able to ramp that up to around about 65. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so survivability, very high. Best in class, 700 hit points. Best in class, 73 damage resistance. Best in class, fire resistance of 80. Also best in class. And it's out on its own on that. So this is a rugged beast. And that may admit, if you are thinking of trying to take down B-29Cs, of a tank build. Now, I don't know that that will work, but it is an option that you can consider, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Airspeed, it's okay. It's not particularly worse than any of the other heavies. To be fair, that the airspeed ratings are all fairly compressed for all of the Tier 8 heavies, with the standout one being the ME-262, but even that's not much faster at base. However, these are on the low side, these cruise speed and maximum boost speed figures. However, here's the next thing which is really interesting. By far and away the best in class boost duration, 60 seconds, which is 20 seconds longer than the previous holder of this title, the BVP 203. So you can boost for a long time. Maximum dive speed of 559 is decent. It's certainly not best in class. The ME-262 has that, but it's certainly okay. Manoeuvrability. impressive. 53 is the rating, takes the title of most manoeuvrable aircraft in theory away from the F-82 twin Mustang. Turn rate of turn time for 360 degrees of 12 seconds, best in class. Roll rate 90, so sort of okay. The minimum and maximum optimum speeds in which your characteristics don't degrade are 278 and 486. These are quite high. Don't get this aircraft too slow, otherwise you will begin to degrade the manoeuvrability. And that is an okay window for your characteristics not degrading of 200, but stall speed fairly high at 99, but then most of the heavies have fairly high stall speeds. Just a word to the wise, if you build well for manoeuvrability and you really go for manoeuvrability, you're going to get this up to easily up to multi-roll levels of manoeuvrability. Let me just show you some of the multi-rolls. Bear in mind that figure of 53. 59 for the Corsair, 45 for the XP-62, 61 for the Tempest, Seafang 62, 58 J21RB, 64 J7W1 Shindon, but then 47 for the ME-109 TL, the Su-9, 49, 46 for the I-260, the BVP 210, 64. Okay, so you're not going to be able to outturn some of those multi-rolls, but you're going to be able to live with them, and if they're not specialised and you are, and you've really maximised your manoeuvrability, and you just saw Flying Dutchman there saying he's screwed it up to 72 now, you're there with the multi-rolls. This is excellent manoeuvrability. Altitude performance, it's on a par with the best in the class. In fact, as you can see, rating of 73 is best in class along with the Dornier FAL and the ME-262. The climb rate is not particularly bad. It's not better than most, 434. But it's not best in class either. But again, the altitude performance means that you can fly high. So you're not paying for that manoeuvrability with the loss of altitude performance, which is often the trade-off in World of Warplanes. Now, a little bit of indicative figures here. Power to weight ratio may indicate the capability of the aircraft to accelerate. What we've got here is kilowatts per kilogram, and it's just about 2.25, which is rated as third best in class. Those of you who ride motorcycles may be familiar with the concept of shedding pounds of weight. In order to gain a virtual H horsepower, you'd have to shed 6.6 pounds in order to effectively gain another horsepower. Now, what we don't know about World of Warplanes is how drag is implemented, if it's implemented at all, and if it is implemented, we have no access to any of the figures for drag on the aircraft. So just because it says it's got a decent power to weight ratio, don't necessarily expect it to accelerate quickly. But then again, don't be surprised if it does. And it is interesting that the Pancake has apparently woeful power to weight ratios, but I've never felt that that aircraft is sluggish to respond to a request for speed. We just quickly look at worst in class figures. We've already talked about the gun armament. Be careful here. The overall rating would make you think that these guns aren't particularly good. However, they're as good as, they certainly seem to be as good as the F-82 twin Mustang, and I don't hear anybody complaining about that, although to be fair, you've also got the option of using a lot of ordnance off the F-82 twin Mustang. But those accuracy figures certainly go a long way to compensating for a lack of pokiness. Airspeed figures are full, fairly compressed, so what is not bad airspeed is showing up with quite a bit of red here. Just see that. Notice that the worst in class boost maximum speed, so you're not a particularly quick heavy, but you are a robust one, that's for sure. Nothing on the manoeuvrability side, well, you wouldn't expect that. Excellent manoeuvrability for this aircraft, and then the altitude performance is actually on a par with the best. But again, all of the figures for the heavies are fairly compressed, so there's some red here, which is fairly meaningless. So there you go. What do I think of this? Well, it's manoeuvrable. It's robust and rugged. It's got pretty good altitude performance. And those guns look like they could be marvellously accurate. Now, I haven't flown this aircraft, but this is looking like a strong set of figures to me. So, without further ado, let's go and have a look at your possible builds. Move that off to one side. Well, actually, we'll minimize it. Let's get back and show you the hangar again. Okay. Now, I'm going to stay small just for this section. When you first get this aircraft, obviously, it's going to be stock. You'll be missing some of your slots. Well, oops, I didn't actually press stock there, so there we go. What will you be missing? Well, actually, it's quite interesting already, without even referring to locked slots. This is an unusual configuration of equipment for heavies. There is no other Tier 8 heavy. I'm not actually sure off the top of my head of another heavy that's got 2 airframe slots. I'm sure there is, but certainly not a Tier 8. Most of I beg your pardon, everyone. Most of the heavies at Tier 8 have 2 engine slots. Some of them only have 1 across the board. This is the only Tier 8 heavy with 2 airframe slots, which is interesting, and it's taking you down a blended build route, more so, I think, than the 2 engine slots would. But as you can see, when you first get this aircraft, you're going to get the airframe. One of the airframe slots is going to be locked, and of the consumables, one of those slots is going to be locked as well. Okay, now I have been a bit naughty. I've used tokens to specialise this aircraft immediately, so although I haven't flown it, I have actually got all of the slots available to me. And there we go. So what are we going to do with this? Well, I'm going to give you some indicative builds and give you some indicative figures for them. Now, I say indicative because straight up, the equipment that I put on this, it's going to be standard equipment. I haven't actually decided what I'm going to take into battle yet, so this is a work in progress. It's going to be standard equipment. You may have experimental or special project equipment available to you. And indeed, Flying Dutchman, who's in the chat, Marco Visser, I should say, has used, I'm pretty certain, if not experimental equipment, then special project equipment. So first off, you may have different levels of equipment, not levels of equipment, different categories of equipment that you can use. The 3 categories being standard equipment, experimental, and special project, for those of us lucky enough to have any of that lying around. Also, you may have the equipment at a different level to me. There are 4 levels of equipment, of course. Stock, improved, advanced, and ultimate. You may have it at a different level to me. You may have calibrated the equipment to a different level to me, so that's the 3rd reason why you have different figures. You may use different bonus characteristics to me, that's the 4th reason. And then finally, your blend of pilot skills and consumables may also affect what you see. So when I say indicative, bear in mind, all of those factors will be slightly different for you. You will tweak the equipment, you will use different pilot skills and so on, which will give you different figures. So what are the choices for the cockpit? Well, I don't think the G-suit is going to be interested in here because, well, you might go for improved manoeuvrability at high speeds, whatever that means in the context of the aircraft. It's not generally a choice for me on slow aircraft. I tend to use a G-suit on things like the XF-90, the J-8M, aircraft that are spectacularly fast but benefit from a bit of manoeuvrability. And of course, there is an opportunity cost. If you use a G-suit, you lose the opportunity for accuracy, even though one of the bonus characteristics there gives you a little bit of accuracy. I tend to use navigational radio equipment on aircraft such as GAAs. I would probably use them on bombers, but then, as you probably all know, I very rarely fly bombers, and I certainly don't fly the high tier ones. Cockpit armour. If you're considering a tank build, I suppose you might do this. It's not something I would do, but we'll take a look at that. But my preferred choice would be a gun sight. No surprises there, I'm sure. Now, I do have lying about in the hangar some experimental equipment and some special project equipment. I may very well choose to mount that, but for the moment, I'm going to mount a standard piece of equipment, but I'm going to mount one that's on another aircraft, I hope. If it'll let me. Ultimate, there we go. There we go, we'll mount that. Okay, airframe. Lots of things you can do here. What we'll do is we'll go for a manoeuvrability build first. So we're going to put on a lightweight wing frame. Let's see if I've got one lying around. Yes, ultimate level, just lying around in the hangar, in the depot, as you would expect. Now, here we go straight away. You've got choices here. Are you going to go for a little bit of tank build? Are you going to go for polished skin? We'll go for a polished skin here because I think that's going to be a popular choice. Again, let's see if I've got one hanging around. I haven't. So I'm going to pinch one from another aircraft just for the duration here. And then if you're going for manoeuvrability, lightweight power unit, again, you may have special project equipment, you may have experimental equipment. I'm just going to put on a standard piece of equipment without even trying to do all the calibration. And then your choices on the guns. I don't think you need to consider reinforced bolt carriers. You've already got really good burst length. I'm not going to mount long gun barrels, but I will tell you, if you put on long gun barrels and you've got an ultimate level piece of equipment, you're going to be able to take that range of fire from up to something like 2,900 feet or even beyond, which is a significant increase on 2,500 feet. Now, if you're good at long range with the guns, and bearing in mind that they are very accurate, this might be your preferred choice. Don't overlook it. All that said, I prefer to put on gas operated action because we're dealing with a low DPS gun here. So I prefer to try and increase the DPS. There you go. Well, Skunkbeard, it's a challenge. It makes you think differently, and I like that. Now, we won't talk about consumables for the moment. So that is what I would call probably a manoeuvrability build. Of course, you may do it slightly differently. You might actually put on some reinforcement here. And we've got some figures on an indicative build a bit like that. Now, what else might you do? Well, again, you might try and go for a speed build instead. Now, you've got two choices here, and I'll show you both of them, but the two choices would be uprated engine. Let me just quickly pick one off. Yeah, I've got one lying around. Now, watch out. The effect on resistance to fire is quite significant with the uprated engine, brings it down. However, you'll still be able to mount a first aid kit, I think, and not necessarily use pilot point skills on fire resistance and firefighter. Alternatively, and bearing in mind you've got a very long boost, you've got more than enough room to put on an ultimate high-speed gas turbine, and I think that's probably going to be quite a popular build as well. But you're not going to make this aircraft move extremely quickly. You might get it up to the level of an unspecialised ME-262, but not much beyond, I would suspect. Lastly, for those of you who absolutely must go and sit behind a B-29C, the full tank build, cockpit armour, and I would regret this choice. Probably you're not going to be worrying about manoeuvrability if you go for a full tank build, so we'll keep the polished skin, we'll put on a reinforced skin, and engine armour protection. Now, that might actually prove to be useful. Got all these pieces of equipment lying around in the depot. Good lord. Okay, so those are broadly the four builds that I've considered, and I'm now going to show you some figures so you can get a feel for what can happen. But I'm going to emphasise again, the figures you're going to see are indicative. We've already got some chats saying that the figures that I'm about to show you can be significantly improved by different choices, particularly with category of equipment, special project equipment, experimental equipment. Okay, so let's get that spreadsheet back into view. First off, we'll get it onto the right page. Okay. Right. Oh, actually, there is one thing I should say. I've forgotten to mention. I'm going to mention it now. Take the workbook off for a second. I mentioned accuracy of the guns, and I mentioned this pancake specifically, and I should say straight away that I've put in my pancake pilot here, and it's got Engine Guru 1 and 2. It's also got Marksman 1 and 2, which gives me benefits on accuracy. And then it's also got Aerodynamics Expert. I haven't yet been able to get it up to polished to Aerobatics Expert, which means that you can get some manoeuvrability from that. Different choice of pilot. If you're going to go for manoeuvrability, you might actually try and find a pilot which has got Aerobatics Expert as well, and you'll get more manoeuvrability. In fact, that's a key thing to mention on my manoeuvrability build that I'm showing you. I've got a pilot that doesn't have Aerobatics Expert, so I'm missing 2% manoeuvrability in all of my axes, and that will have a significant effect. And in fact, when I come to actually fly the aircraft, I might swap out the pilot here and put in one with more manoeuvrability, because I'm going to go with a manoeuvrability build first. We didn't do consumables, let's do that now. Straightforward, go for the first aid dressing package. 2 slots on the frame, and because I'm going to go for manoeuvrability first, I'm going to go for pneumatic control assist. If you're interested in speed, interested in trying to make it more like a tank, you'd put on the exhaust bleed inerting system. I'm not going to do that, but it's your option if you're going to go for a tank build. I'm going to put on the emergency control system. Now, here's the interesting one. I actually don't think you need to put on engine cooling, and I know Flying Dutchman Marco Visser in this chat doesn't think this is the right choice either. At least I assume he doesn't think it's the right choice. In fact, I know he doesn't think it's the right choice. His experience of the aircraft, and he's had it a few days now, as you can tell from the work he's been doing, and bear in mind I can't see chat, so I'm not responding to that at the moment. Manual and restart. And then I would suggest that you make sure that you mount at least universal ammunition. However, I am firing gold at the moment because I'm annoyed with always being criticaled, and I want to get some of my own back. Also, I want to reduce the amount of gold down to a more manageable level. If you are going to use gold ammunition, then fragmentation ammunition is my choice. I prefer to do the criticals than I do the fire. So all that bearing in mind, and that key point there about aerobatics expert being missing off this particular pilot, let's go and look at those figures I was going to show you. Okay, let's get them up. And here we are. So what we've got here, the base figures for the Black Widow. I've removed the ordnance because there's no effect on ordnance. These are the base figures for the Black Widow here. These are what you've already seen. And then we've got here a build. This is what I call the manoeuvrability build. Gun sight, lightweight wing frame, polished skin, lightweight power unit, gas operated action. And then, as you can see, as we step through it on this build, we've got an improvement in the rating of the guns to 34. This still doesn't sound spectacular, but it is much better. And the DPS has gone up to 541. And technically, the game says it's 543. There are some interesting things about the way the game calculates the UI figures with all the bonuses, and it's not really worth going into chapter and verse how you can finesse this spreadsheet to replicate what happens in the UI, because I'm not actually sure that's really what's happening in the game anyway. What we got was an increase on DPS per gun of 135, leading to that, or more like, 135, leading to that 541 there. Rate of fire went up to 473, which is why you've got more DPS. No change to the range. You can do that, of course, if you mount the long gun barrels. I've already mentioned that you can get this range up to something like 2,900, probably more, with long gun barrels. The auto-aim angle's improved healthily to 3.45, so you can now be off target by nearly 3.5 degrees and still hit with these cannons. That's excellent for cannons. And I've managed to, without even trying, because I know I haven't calibrated that piece of equipment, the gun sight, I've got the dispersion angle down to 0.3. These really are going to be like laser pointers, these guns, if you go for this kind of setup on with a gun sight. No change to overheat, and obviously shell velocity is immutable, doesn't change. Same with the gun armament defensive there. Survivability, however, there's a bit of an impact coming from the lightweight wing frame, and the rating comes down to 19, 2 down, and basically you've lost 49 of your hit points. Well, it's still pretty good. It's still actually 1 point better than the next best in class, which is the Pancake. Airspeed, 72, an improvement of 5. Cruise speed here has gone up by 56 miles per hour, which is healthy. You're going to feel fairly swift at all times. Not much effect on the boost speed, but a little bit there, 2%. Now, I want you to bear in mind my comments about category of equipment, special, experimental, standard. I've got standard piece of equipment on. I've got it at ultimate level. You may not have yet have got it up to ultimate level. Calibration, I haven't fully calibrated it. You may have calibrated it, and so on and so on. Bonus characteristics, which I didn't actually look at when we went back in. We'll briefly go over those when I go back into the hangar. All that said, I've got a pretty decent improvement of 15% on the manoeuvrability here, but I just want to draw you back. I'm pretty much sure I saw Marco Visser in chat say he'd got his up to 72 by really tweaking out those bonus characteristics by using special project equipment, I assume, certainly experimental if not, and working absolutely to do everything he could to improve the manoeuvrability. And if you can get that up to 65, 66, you're doing very nicely indeed. You're going to be very competitive with multirolls. If you are able to get it up to 72, you're actually going to outturn most of them and treat this aircraft as a really manoeuvrable multi-heavy. So bear in mind, 61 is by nowhere near nowhere near the best that you can do here. It's just an indicative you can do by slapping on some equipment right at the start of your journey with this aircraft, which is pretty much what I've done. And even there, as you can see, I've got the turn down to 11 seconds. And the roll rate is improved by 22.4% up to 20. And there's an effect on yaw as well, which isn't shown here because there's no figure for yaw within the game, unfortunately. But multiple benefits to manoeuvrability. And this can be hugely improved if you really work at it and if that's what you want to do. And there's an incidental effect on the climb rate, which is nice to have as well. Now, the second build I showed you was, again, gun sight, so nothing changes there. Lightweight wing frame, polished skin, gas operated turbine, which is the piece of equipment that affects your boost, and gas operated action again. No change there on the guns. So we'll skip over the guns. The guns for all of these builds are exactly the same. There's probably more you could do with those if you were using long gun barrels and the like, but for now we've dealt with the guns. So let's just look at survivability. Again, we lose the 51 hit points, so we lose a rating of 2. Airspeed up to 74, and again, this won't be the end of it. You'll be able to get this up if you really want to try and make it faster. Push it right up to around about unspecialized ME 262 standards, maybe a bit beyond. So you've got an improvement of 7 on the rating. The airspeed is 400. That's interesting, actually. It's rated as being lower than that. That might be a mistake, actually. Oh no, this is the gas turbine. So that's where the big benefit is. The maximum boost speed is now up to 470 or thereabouts, 35. However, you also lose 11% of your boost down to 53 seconds. But with 53 seconds worth of boost, you're still way above even the BVP 203. You're still going to be keep boosting and try and get away from heavies that lose their boost much more quickly than you do. So you might want to go for this airspeed build. And then on manoeuvrability, there is a small improvement of a rating of 4. It all comes largely from a little bit of extra yaw, which you can't see here, and 20 degrees faster roll rate as well. But basically, this is only slightly above the standard, and you're not going to be out turning the multi-rolls. You're going to have to shoot them and scoot off using that boost. And then the altitude performance, just note, this is well worth noting. The gas turbine gets your climb rate up to 470, which is pretty quick now. What you might do instead of putting on gas turbine, and remember you've only got the 1 engine slot, is uprated engine. For those of you who are really keen on your speed builds, the Black Widow is going to be a bit of a disappointment because it's only got that 1 slot, and I've already seen Skunkbird go, oh no! Yep, you're going to have to live with it. Guns, no change there, of course. Now, that is an effect on survivability. Now you're down to 18, still pretty rugged, but you've lost that 49 hit points, and you've also lost 26 points of fire resistance. Probably still okay to mount a first aid dressing kit, I would suggest, but just bear that in mind. You're more likely to be set on fire. Manoeuvrability 73, still up a bit because we kept the lightweight wing frame on. So as you can see, 9% improvement in the rating, 429 miles an hour airspeed. So nice on the cruise here, 23% increase. This will feel nice moving through the air at all times without boost. Small improvement on the boost speed, and those of you who really like your speed builds are going to be really gnashing and wailing your teeth because you can't get both of these things here, the 470 and the 429. So 12 miles an hour, and then a loss of 9 on the 9 seconds boost, 15%. Maneuverability, slightly different effects, slight improvement in the turn rate with this build, not much. And again, you've got that 20 degrees roll rate. You've also got a slightly improved 445 climb rate. And finally, the build, which I don't think many people are going to go for, but if you really must sit behind a B-29C and trade with it, I suppose this is the build that you'll be looking at. This will be cockpit armor, reinforced skin, polished skin, because I guess you're not going to be caring about maneuverability if you're going for this. Engine armor protection and gas operated action. The guns are the same as I've already shown you. Now we've got the survivability up to 22, which I don't think is that spectacular an increase, but it is an increase. 50 extra hit points, 750, 77 damage resistance, and then no change to the fire resistance at 80. That's the main effects there. The airspeed, slight improvement. 43. It's interesting. What's that coming from? I'd have to check that. Take that with a pinch of salt, but it's telling me that 390... Oh, it's coming from the polished skin. Probably that is right, but it's only 390, so it's going to feel sluggish again, and you've actually lose a bit of boost speed. So the aircraft is not going to flee from anything very quickly. So you may be able to sit behind that B-29C for a bit longer, but you're not going to be able to get away from other heavies who come and sit behind you whilst you're trying to shoot down the B-29C. And as you can see, adverse effects on manoeuvrability as well. The rating's actually gone down. Longer turn time, roll rate has actually gone down as well. This is probably not going to be a popular build, I guess. I just threw it in there to illustrate what happens if you do go for a tank build, and also your climb rate reduces. Now, as I say, I'm going to emphasize again, these are not the absolute be-all and end-all of the figures that you can attain with your various builds. I've already listed the 5 reasons why you could obtain different figures to me. And there's a lot more to be done with all of these builds. If you really must have a tank build, I suppose. The 2 speed builds. I think it's screaming at me that this needs a manoeuvrability build. And that suits my play style. If you're somebody who really loves your high energy aircraft, you may be thinking that the Black Widow is a bit of a nuisance because you've only got that one engine slot. Okay, so there you go, some indicative figures on the builds. Much more to come there. I want to emphasize for the very final time, you can do better than this on every build that way that you choose to build the aircraft. But this is the kind of way that the things will go depending on those kinds of builds that I've just shown you. Right, let's put that spreadsheet to one side. Let's bring the hangar back into view. Let's change me back to where I was. There I go. And we're actually going to build this aircraft. Let's reset. And let's load up some equipment. Well, first off, actually, I'm going to go and have a look and see if I've got another pilot that I might choose. Yeah, let's stick the actually, I need to train the XF-90 pilot, but I want to get that extra marksman skill. So we'll put the XF-90 pilot in. We'll keep the gunner. Oh, that's something that's worth mentioning. The turret, if it's going to help you by swinging around and shooting forwards, upwards, and whatnot, a skill which I tend to gloss over. This one, the quick reflexes which I've got here, this might actually be quite a useful skill. I'm not sure how useful it will be, but 50% quicker aiming time could very well come in handy. So don't overlook this skill on your gunner for this particular aircraft. I'm going to go for the gun sight. Well, no surprises there. And I've got both experimental and special project equipment available. And I'm actually going to mount the experimental. I've had a look at these in the past, and I seem to remember that the special project equipment is actually slightly worse than the experimental equipment. So let's pop that on. Not calibrated yet, and I'm not going to spend time on stream calibrating this. I'll do that some other time, but just bear in mind that there's more to come here. Bonus characteristics, let's go and have a look. Now, if you're really going to... So it goes for calibration again. If you're really going to major out on accuracy, then what you'll want to do is get the 2 accuracy figures here of 5 and 3%, plus 1 other characteristics. And it wouldn't be a bad blend to get those 2 accuracy figures, and then perhaps 10% chance of inflicting critical damage. That would be a good set of bonus characteristics to go for. In fact, I'm very tempted to do that, but I'm not going to reassemble right now because it's time. We want to get flying this aircraft, don't we? So we've actually got here 20% chance of causing a critical damage and 10% chance of causing a fire. These are also good characteristics. Bearing in mind this has got slightly different bonus characteristic loadout to the standard piece of equipment, but not far off being the same. Okay, so we'll leave those as they are. Manoeuvrability build, lightweight power units. Now, I don't think I've got an experimental one lying around. I have got an ultimate standard one lying around, so we'll go for that. I'm going to go for polished skin. Now, this reduces the manoeuvrability a bit, so if you want to avoid that penalty cost, either leave this slot free or put on a reinforced skin, but of course if you put on the reinforced skin, the aircraft's going to be slower. I'm going to put on the polished skin, but we're going to blend the build slightly. Okay, now I have got, well, why the hell not, stock experimental equipment. I've got to use it somewhere, so we are going to enhance this. That actually came from the Candy Trail, I've just remembered. I think, or was that period 3? Possibly came from the Candy Trail, this piece of equipment. So let's look at bonus characteristics there. Again, I'm not going to do any reassembling. So extra roll manoeuvrability, extra yaw manoeuvrability. I'm not sure about this one. Let's go and have a quick look and see what the other characteristics are. There's more roll manoeuvrability to be had, so you would throw away this wing's resistance to critical damage and get the 2% roll manoeuvrability at the bottom. So again, you can get a bit more on your manoeuvrability by getting these bonus characteristics in place. I'm not going to do that now, but just bear in mind, again, the manoeuvrability is going to be affected by the fact that I haven't absolutely tried to maximise that piece of equipment for manoeuvrability. And on that basis, let's get the lightweight power unit in. We've got an ultimate level lightweight power unit just lying around in the hangar, as you do. It's not fully calibrated, however. We reassemble. What have we got here? What effects would we go for? Well, there is 2% yaw manoeuvrability there. So again, if you're really determined to get your manoeuvrability up, you would get the yaw manoeuvrability, which is the bottom characteristic there, in place, and then pick 2 of the others. Cruise speed or acceleration with or without boost, or even engine's resistance to critical damage, which I quite like. I might pick that one off. So these are not the bonus characteristics I would go for. Again, I'm not going to gamble away and try to get these characteristics in place. Just bear in mind that if you have got the tokens and you've got the credits, that is what you would do and get more manoeuvrability on this aircraft. So I'm damaging my manoeuvrability here, but I've got it up to 64, which I think is actually already higher by 1 point than the what I showed you on the spreadsheet. In fact, it's 3 higher. It was 61, wasn't it? So that's 64 manoeuvrability shown over here already. And even just with this loadout, I've got more to come. 65, 66 from calibration, careful choice of bonus characteristics. And that's just using standard equipment. If you've got experimental or special project equipment available, can leech it off another aircraft. That's how you're going to get this up to 72. And then we're going to go for gas-operated action. And again, I've got one lying around in the depot. Well, more than one lying around in the depot, as you do. Again, not fully calibrated. Bonus characteristics on this. Cooldown rate. I always like that. Chance of causing a fire. And more rate of fire as well. Let's have a look at the full characteristics. You'll pick off more cooldown rate if you want. Will you be overheating the guns at 12 seconds? Probably not, I guess. Therefore, you can probably avoid using one of the bonus characteristics for cooldown. You could improve the accuracy of the weaponry, which, if that's your won't. I've got 10% chance of causing a fire. I quite like using the critical chances of causing a fire at the moment. And then the rate of fire is bonus characteristic there. Pick the ones that you like. This is an okay set of characteristics for me, but just be the whole reason I've looked at these bonus characteristics is I want to make you aware that you need to pick them carefully to try and get the best out of the aircraft, and I haven't done that yet. I will be doing it. Consumables, first aid dressing kit. You can do that quite easily. Survivability is really good. Pneumatic control assist here. I'm going to put on an emergency control system to help me in a tight spot turning with other aircraft. Not engine cooling for once. You've already got 60 seconds of boost. Marco Visser, Flying Dutchman, has already alerted me to the fact that he thinks the manual engine restart is a necessary choice here. And I agree, even without that comment. But now that I've had his comment, I'm definitely going to put on an engine restart here. And then universal ammunition, which is probably going to be good enough, but I'm going to be nasty and put on fragmentation ammunition. We are going to apply those. Okay, we have our first build. Over time I may modify that, and I will let you know. Pilot skills. If you're going to major out on accuracy, you're going to want to try and get marks on 1 and 2 here. But if you're going to major out on manoeuvrability, you want these 2 skills, provided you've mounted equipment, of course. I'm assuming that you will do so. If you don't, you're going to be at a disadvantage anyway. If you've got equipment that's suitable, get these 2 skills on first, and then start working on this group. And then I guess probably resilience up here, miles and miles and miles into the future would be where I would go. But my core 6 skills for this aircraft would be this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Gunners tend to get a bit overlooked. I always put on defensive fire and protection expert as for my first 6 points, and then generally I tend to work to trying to get this pair of skills. This one is a bit of a nonsense skill. I think there's something broken in the game because it says it increases the burst length of a turret by 50%. Well, has anybody managed to make a turret overheat? So what does that mean? However, it's a prerequisite for getting this skill, the ballistics expert, which increases the range of fire by 10%, which I think is really nice. However, in this particular case, if that turret is going to do some work firing forwards, upwards, and all sorts of things, really having quick reflexes is no bad thing. And now, I never talk about weakest link, and there's 2 reasons for that. It's 4 skill points straight off. I've never used it. But the gunner concentrates on an enemy with the fewest hit points. I suppose that might be useful occasionally, but then if you're firing manually, you're going to be doing that anyway. So, core skills here. These 2 first. Funnily enough, I would want to keep this one and then work up to get these 2 here. Jolly good. Wow, that's a lot of talking. But as this is a semi-review, as well as a flight demonstration, I think that's all good stuff. Now, I'm going to try and catch up. I bet you there's a lot of chat here. I do apologise. Very manoeuvrable. Yes, it is, and there's more to come. I haven't got it anywhere near maxed out, even with the kit I've got on it. There's more to come now. I could easily get that up to 66, 67, I'm sure. And yeah, there we go. Marco Visser, Flying Dutchman on Twitch, has got it up to 72 by virtue of using probably special project equipment and tweaking all the bonus characteristics and fully calibrating equipment and so on. The artist got lazy with the props. Yeah, that's interesting. Didn't know that. Yep, Marcellus, hello there. How are you getting on with your grind, Marcellus? 2 airframe consumables, only 1 for engine. Those of you who like your speed builds are going to feel this and be a bit disappointed. Hello, Erica. How are you? And I've been through those options, and I hope you found that gave you food for thought. Okay, I think the XP-58 is better suited to bomber hunting. Probably. Certainly the bigger guns are a help, but what's in the back of my mind there is the long burst length. The problem is that if for a B-29C, that means sitting near a B-29C for a long time, which is not a good idea. However, sitting behind an RB-17 and knocking it down, I think this will take down our RB-17s very nicely. Okay, so your flying style favours speed, and there you go. This aircraft is going to be giving you a little bit of grits. I would swap out for the, Marcella says, reinforced airframe equipment. It's certainly possible, and it will certainly help your manoeuvrability as well. Good point, and it may very well be worth doing. I'm not going to do that now, but it's certainly a thought I appreciate and possibly will use in future if I really concentrate on trying to get this as manoeuvrable as possible. One does not kill a bomber from behind, you kill them. Yeah, I know, absolutely. I was thinking more of the people. There's 2 things there. You rarely have time in the game now to actually get yourself in a position to attack a bomber from the front. All the time. At some point, you are likely to end up behind a bomber, whether you like it or not. And for those of you who really hate being hit by the tail gunners, the tank build is the way to go. It's not one I recommend, but it is there for you as an option if you want it. But technically, one-on-one, don't go for the bombers. Well, RB-17 is possibly going to make it difficult for you, but the B-29C for certain, you want to be, if this is the B-29C here, you want to do something like this. Come in from above, spatter it with your guns, and then flip and go away forwards of it and try not to get behind it. The problem is that maneuver takes time to set up, and you've got a 12-minute game and you've got multiple bombers. The number of times you can actually spend the time getting into exactly the right position to attack a B-29C like that, I find is infrequent. But certainly try it if you've got the opportunity. RB-17s are not an issue. I didn't think it would be. Erica, thank you for saying that you found that helpful. Bear in mind, they're only thoughts and opinions. They're designed to make you think, what would I do? Tier 9s or B-29s, that's a different story altogether. Yeah, I'm not too surprised. As I say, with the B-29s, you'd still want to be extremely careful. The thing is, though, whatever aircraft you're in, you need to be extremely careful with the B-29Cs, even those with the massive hitting power like the XP-58. Right, ladies and gentlemen, enough chat. I think it's time to go and fly this and see what I can make of it with just what is basically a build that's been thrown together and not absolutely tweaked to the maximum. Let's go and see how we do. So thank you for all of you for joining me. I'm glad you found me. The reason why I've done this on YouTube rather than Twitch is because there's a permanent record. And people can come back and look at it, pick over the bones of it and go, oh, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of that. Or, no, don't do it that way. Do it like this. And do feel free to share your comments in chat on the video itself when it's posted after I've finished. And give us the benefit of your experience. No ordnance, so that's interesting. Do I feel like I'm quick enough to get across to the command centre? Well, the short answer is probably not, because they've all, here we go, 2 B-29Cs and RB-17. The chances of me getting across there and stopping them from already having taken it are virtually zero, and even if they haven't, I probably won't be able to stop them taking it, because there's multiple bombers. Although I'm sure one of them's going to gunship it over the top of the airfield. Airfield is where we will go. Let's go and mix it with the heavies. Let's try and pick off the multi-rolls. Ready, we've got a heavy in sight. And I wasn't wrong about the B-29C. My manoeuvrability against that. You can see the chattering away. The turret is giving him a hard time. I'm out of range. We are going to chase him off, and I'm now catching him up. Remember, I've got a lot more boost than he has. Smart move. He's trying to get to the command centre where he's got friends, but he's too late. Right, so it doesn't fire downwards particularly well. Right. Got this. For your temerity in dogfighting, I'm going to shoot you down as well. Though somebody else has got it. If I get your engine, you're in trouble. In fact, I'm going to get you anyway. Saw the accuracy there. It's rear gunner took out my engine twice there. I'm not going to... well, I can't restart it. I used it previously. Let's go and get repairs. So, XP-58s, beware. This aircraft is going to hunt you. I haven't got engines. Okay, let's try the B-29C and let's see what happens. I'm trying to get in front of him. And I can't really... oh, right, okay, the XP-58 is here. Well, that's rather cleared things, hasn't it? Well, that spoiled things. I wanted to shoot the B-29C, who's been gunshipping it, and I didn't get my repairs. However, he's on really low health now. Let's see how this goes. And as you can see, even on really low health, I'm feeling really uncomfortable here. I'm pretty sure the XP-58 is behind me, but I still want to do it. There we go. It's actually the F7F. Wow. How many times have I lost my engine here? And the XP-58 finally does come in. So, on the evidence of that B-29C was on probably less than 25% health, and I still felt uncomfortable being behind it. Now, I didn't have much of a choice there because I hadn't got an engine. It got constantly shot out. This aircraft is going to give XP-58s an absolutely horrid time. Oh dear, I've just given you a horrid time again. Yeah, DPS, that is going to hold you back a bit, but nice long burst. I could outturn the pancake, but he's got friends, and also the ground attack is trying to help me. But we're now going to go away quite a long way. We're going to get some nice altitude, and we're going to deliver another attack. To attack. Can outturn a pancake. In fact, with the right build, you're going to be able to outturn. I should have picked the ME-209A. I must admit, I fixated on the heavies there in the ground attack. I should have picked out the ME-209 as I came in. Bit sloppy and lazy of me, but I was going to say the game's won, but actually it's not quite won, is it? If they manage to get that last sector, we're in trouble, so I'm going to have to go and defend it, unfortunately. Got an AFK guy here, I think. Oh, he's not AFK. Ooh, that's interesting. Oh, he wanted to bomber flight and he didn't realise I was around. Hard luck. Now, I must admit, I really do wish I had the DPS of an XP-58 there, or an ME-262. Right on the cusp of losing this. I think he's going to do it. We're going to lose to superiority right at the end, would you believe? Well played. I haven't got time to do anything about it. I can't get to another sector and my team is nowhere. Look, he's there, and he's off the edge of the map for some reason. I don't know what they're doing over there. Well, that's just down to rank bad play by the team, but then we're used to that now, aren't we? People chasing their missions for the Black Widow. They're not don't care about Well, that's an awful loss, but that has no reflection on the aircraft itself. That's just the team completely and utterly chasing missions and not trying to win the game. I'm not actually sure we would have even won that under normal circumstances because of the new CIS players' hatred of defending anything. So, what was my first impression now? Very, very, very easy to fly. And that's just with the scratch, well, I say a scratch build, not a particularly optimized build. Absolutely wiped the floor with the XP-58. The F7F Tiger wouldn't have been any match for it, nor would the Pancake that was in that battle. Very easy to fly. Made a mistake going into the airfield. Went for the heavies and the ground attackers and forgot about the ME-209A. Got myself shot down unnecessarily. Didn't like being behind the B-29C, even with 25% health. No surprises there. Didn't get to fight the RB-17s, fun enough, but I think it would have handled that very easily. And as far as flying this aircraft is concerned, if you're coming from things like turn fighters and multi-roles, you're going to find this a really easy heavy to fly. Even more so than the Pancake. Okay, quite enjoyed that. Let's have a quick look at chat. Okay, Acting King. I'm not going to recap everything that I've said so far, Acting King. The reason we're on YouTube is so that when I'm finished, this will go into my live section as a YouTube video for people to pick over. There is a ton of stuff for you to go and have a look at the start of the video. A bit like a review video, I've got the base characteristics of the aircraft available, and then I demonstrate the effects of some certain builds with the normal proviso that they're not absolutely the best you can squeeze out of the aircraft in any particular characteristic. Do go and have a look at that, Acting King, and you'll see. As far as actually flying it's concerned, as I say, I just found that very easy to fly. Whilst I was talking, I lost a bit of concentration. I'm going to have to concentrate a bit harder if I'm going to fly it really well. But I had no problems in flying that. It's a very, very forgiving aircraft to fly. The game always lists turrets as one gun, Acting King. It's just a feature of the game. The way that they characterize it in the database. Yes, there are 4 guns up there. Although I'm not actually sure. It says that the gun armament... No, there are 4 guns up there. If I remember correctly, they were 50 cals on the Black Widow. Now, there's a really, really important comment from Skunkbeard here about the way Wargaming has taken its games in the past few years. Wargaming has a habit of obsoleting my favourite planes with the premiums. Used to love Tier 6 heavies, XP-54 ruined those. Now this monstrosity ruins my favourite Tier 8 heavy, the XP-58. Quite potentially, yes. And it's a really unfortunate situation. Now, I'm an old school guy here. I like my premiums to be worse than the tech tree equivalents. This has not been the way of Wargaming for some time now in all their titles. And it is annoying. And this is why on my Twitch streams you'll find me saying I'm going to fly a tech tree aircraft. I'm having to remind myself to fly a tech tree aircraft because quite often there's a premium aircraft that I'd prefer to fly. Sad, but perhaps understandable because that's where they make their revenue from. They've originally got people interested in the game by having the tech tree and lots of exciting, interesting things to do. Now they're gambling on people paying for premium aircraft to be overpowered or potent in a game. So, Skunkbeard, I'm afraid I agree with you, and it's a development I regret, but it's here to stay. That river was crossed a long time ago, I'm afraid to say. Okay, so there you go. I deliberately sat behind that B-29C. Paul Corcoran is saying, congrats, you see the low DPS is the problem. At least it's not XP-54 levels of DPS coupled with high burst length. Otherwise it would be a monster. It's still pretty potent, and there are some aircraft it's going to counter really well. You saw me hunt down and chase that XP-58 at the start, and he got a long way away from me, but then he ran out of boost, and I just caught him up and went, thank you very much, nom 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 nom. So yeah, the XP-58s are going to find this a real handful of an aircraft to deal with. Built for noobs. I think that's a pretty fair comment. Yes, it's certainly an easy aircraft to fly, Skunkbeard. That's true. I sort of said a scratch build because I haven't tweaked it to the ultimate level. Sorry, that's a bad choice of words. I haven't tweaked it to the maximum I can. However, it is ultimate level equipment. You're quite right. So it's not just a build without equipment, for instance. Okay, Acting King, glad about that. Right, let's go and fly this a couple more times. Not going to change the build. We'll try and concentrate a bit more now. I have to say I'm dog tired. It's been a long grind to get this as quickly as I have. I did it in 8.5, 9 days, and also I wasn't very well this morning, so I thought, sod it, I can't sleep because I'm feeling unwell. I got up at 1:30. The server reset was 2:30 in the morning, and I actually played from 2:30 through to early morning. Well, that was early morning, of course, through to about 8:30, finishing off the last candies. So I'm actually shattered. Hence, my concentration is probably not what it should be. What have we got against us? Well, in terms of the tier 8, obviously I'm not as manoeuvrable as a Vampire. I'll need to fly away from that. I want to try and hit the TU2. They've got quite a lot of turning aircraft, but then this is a map where this is the least important sector of all. So we'll see. Am I wrong for wishing that there were a couple of bombs on this? Oh, I've just turned on my precious up here, this mod here, up at the top in the top left. I've been in communication with the producers, writers of this mod. They are going to be doing another version. And they've got some developments for it as well, apparently. However, I should say it's time limited to the end of December. I'm not certain they're going to have it out for that. At least I believe it's time limited for the end of December. But those of you who like that mod, never fear. It is coming. Right. The reason I was hesitating there was I wanted to see what was up in the air rather than trade my altitude. There we go, look at the manoeuvrability there. What have I got behind me? Ah, well played, the Vampire. And that's interesting, the tail gets in the way quite a bit of the gun. Gun? Did that anticipate being knocked out? This is a fairly silly Vampire. He has actually got me, actually. That's only because I lost control of the gun temporarily. Interesting that it's got the block on the tail though. That actually makes it less easy to use. So that's a balancing factor. It's not just point and shoot. Plenty enough manoeuvrability to be able to stay on target with the Spitfire there, which was moving like a bat out of hell. You actually lost the command centre. That's interesting. There must be a bomber over there somewhere. I really need to start thinking tactically. At the moment I'm just flying around like a loon, seeing what I can do with the aircraft. Which isn't a good way to fly. And there's a bomber bin. Oh, no, it's a ground attack. Do I want to go low? I don't actually see anything else to go for at the moment. What's that? Trying to sneak around the long way. Gotta be a little bit careful here. Still pass. Wow. Criticals in the game are absolutely insane at the moment, aren't they? As we're all complaining. Soften that one up. Let's go and soften this one up. Over the other one, this is easier. Angle of attack is not so bad. Missed. Knew you were going to do that. Made you waste your rockets. Wow. 11 stupid on the ground, on the criticals. Don't think I'm near enough. I was actually. Okay, that's stupid of me. I really am tired, aren't I? I need to start getting my. The thing is, I've mentally unwound. Having concentrated so hard for so long, I can feel myself just flying purely for fun instead of trying to fly well. Let's go and take this back. Always surprises me how big the radius of the bombs is on those Soviet ground attackers. I never feel I'm that near, and I still get blown up by them now and then. For a turret kill. Don't worry about that one. Let's go and kill this one. Let's go and take the military base again. This time I'm not going to make... Aha! The bomber's on very low health. But he's going to get out of the sector anyway, so I'll just go and kill him anyway. Certainly don't want him being able to drop another bomb load. Actually, he's just flying off a little bit, is he? Yeah, forget him. Not going to be kited out like that. May as well leave him on low health. They've got fighters here, and I'm the only one who's come here. That's a bit irritant. Having a good look backwards before I decide to go back. Terrific accuracy on the guns. Really notice it. These things can be really difficult to hit, no problem with this. Oh, it's flying. Just can't take this, can we? I've knocked down, what, 3 aircraft here now? Make that 4. I'm going to have to leave because I'm on low hit points and I've got a fighter chasing me. Really? He hit me. Oh my god, my team collapsed. You ever get the feeling you're the only one on the team who's doing anything? well, as I say, no surprises at the moment. You can't rely on your team members whatsoever. And even though I was saying I'm not playing at all well, allowed myself to get bomb trapped through tiredness, I still end up with more chevrons than anyone else. And to be fair, they're all chasing their own candies, aren't they? So they're not focusing on trying to win the games. But those are two games where, in theory, we've got ourselves a winning position and the team has just thrown it away. But I'm going to have to fly better. I am definitely not flying well. I'm making silly mistakes because I've relaxed. Having said that, I think I've earned it. After 9 days of hard grinding, I'm entitled to relax. P-51H. The thing is, I haven't got that turret really tricked out. And again, many of you won't be able to trick it out, but once you get more range on it, what I did notice, this was interesting, the big block right in the centre now, it's probably actually these tail planes, and it's probably not quite the centre, but you notice a couple of times I wanted to shoot the vampire that's behind me, and I couldn't, because the block got in the way. So that's a good thing. It's balanced it off. It's not just a turret that can keep firing endlessly like the blasted bomber turrets on the high tier bombers. I think I am probably going to have to tweak this more to get the absolute best out of it. That said, I just plainly and simply need to fly better and more intelligently. A couple of times here I've flown very stupidly. Missed the ME-209 in the previous game in the airfield and allowed myself to get shot down when I was concentrating on shooting a ground attacker that I had no need to shoot, and there I managed to get myself bomb trapped. And the other thing that's really irritating me about the game is the criticals just seem to have been turned up to 11 stupid. And it's not just the CIS players that are doing criticals, it's bots doing criticals as well. So there's something about the game that, in my opinion, has changed, and I wish Wargaming would change it back. We seem to be getting more and more and more criticals, and I'm wondering if they're trying to force people into tank builds because they're unpopular builds. Tempest has got rockets, but I know where you're going with that, Cleeks. It's like a multi-role without ordnance. And if you really go for the manoeuvrability build and tweak it out as much as you can, and I haven't so far, you're going to be able to operate in that kind of niche very comfortably. You've also got the enormous boost of 60 seconds, which no multi-role has. It's more like bomber boost, that is. Let's have a look at this rear gun again. So when it's up, it's fine. It's when you're on a level, so actually that's the thing to do. Pitch up when you're using the rear gun. You should be doing that anyway in many cases. Make sure you pitch up when you use your rear gun. Like that. Should have taken this by now, chaps. Should be a bomber up there. Let's go and see how it does against the Junkers, shall we? Oh, what's that down there? Attacker. Oh. Yep, take the escorts first. What are you doing up there? I've got another good team. bombers they've got. B-29C I can see there. Let's go and try and help this chap. I can outturn an ME-109TL, by the way, even with this build. He is so lucky. He's got away with a rocket kill. For some reason my hits didn't register for a while there. I was aiming at his engine, to be fair. Right, a special team. Let's go and kill that multi-roll and get off and try and take key. It's more than just a multi-roll there, is it? Right. And as you come off the Candy Trail, remember you've got another 3 or 4 weeks, 3 weeks of this. People playing badly, trying to get their missions done. He's pitching up to try and use his guns. DPS is okay against this. He's probably quite irritated. Let's attack the second time I've stopped him here. They're going to take that. I'm going to go off and see if I can take something else. And if they don't take it, well, I've got such a bad team, we're not going to win anyway. Okay, there. Dues, we've got it anyway. Maybe I can take the J7 whilst I'm here. I actually mucked up there. Trouble is my turret key and my pitch up key are quite close together. I pressed the wrong one there. Oh come on, he's out of range. Something else meant to be firing at me. Are you kidding me? It's out of range. Oh, I keep hitting the blasted turret key when I want to be hitting pitch up. Notice I've got my engine shot out twice there. Okay, I'm going to have to do something about that. I keep hitting the turret key when I want to hit pitch up, because I'm not used to using the pitch up key. It's a bomber I can go for straight away. I've just hit the pitch up key when I wanted to hit the... Okay. Fingers and thumbs. That's annoying. It's actually cost me my aircraft twice now because I can't hit the right key at the right time. Don't die there. Come away, Spitfire. You moron. Now you're going to die. Why do you just keep chasing him? You've almost handed it to him. There's a... It's got it anyway. Spitfire did that. Spitfire should have broken off. And didn't. But there's no accounting for stupidity. There's no accounting for stupidity. Typical CIS player won't pull out of a ram. Even though he's going to lose. I don't know why they do that. That's a bomb trap waiting for me there. Let's go and see if we can take that command centre. We keep health while we're at it. Where did I just take damage from? Where? That's twice. From nowhere I've just taken damage, and you may be thinking, well, it doesn't really matter. Well, it does, because it stopped me from getting field repairs. There's something about this game at the moment which is just really... That was almost... Okay, it didn't matter in the context of winning the game because we've already lost. But it was almost as if the game was saying, you need health to attack the sector. No, I'm taking it away from you. And it's like the criticals being turned up to 11, stupid. It's almost as if the game is saying, you're going to try and use your speed? Here's your engine knocked out. You're going to try and use your manoeuvrability? There's your tailplane knocked out. It's almost like the game is deliberately making it hard so that you aren't able to fight effectively. And that wasn't once there. I'm outside of a sector, there's no enemy around me, and twice I took damage from nowhere. Now, there is a theory. Some people have opined that it's actually just a very delayed server response, but I don't buy that myself. Whatever it was there, that was really irritating. Twice I had my field repairs taken away from me. You also notice that almost every time you engage any aircraft, you're getting criticaled. And I'm finding that incredibly frustrating. Well, through no fault of my own, that's 3 defeats in a row. I played a bit better there. Apart from this G and T for the turret, I've got to be a bit more accurate there. I allowed myself to get shot down by the Spitfire, and I needn't have. I need to use pace in future, and then use the turret. To be fair, the turret is not a killer like the bomber turrets anyway, so I'm not sure that I should be relying on it anyway. Now, here's an aircraft that will counter this one reasonably well, the P-88. Now, the only problem is DPS. And I've got 700 hit points, but the P-88 is going to give me a hard time all day long. If he chooses to get on my tail and go for me all the time, he's going to really, really give me a hard time. And it actually doesn't have shabby DPS, the P-88. Yeah, that's a really good counter. If you can get behind me, which you should be able to do easily, and I'm not very good with the turret, I think that P-88 could very well be a good counter for this aircraft, provided you're willing to take the time to shoot it down. Sucked into a dogfight. Got that. Let's go and see if we can get this one. Of course, the other side of the coin is I'm doing criticals as well. Just got that in time. In the wrong sector here, but... yeah, I need to get my fingers sorted out. Got it, I just thought I'd take the damage. Right, let's go look, see what we can do. Sorry, turn chat off. Where are their bombers? It's coming over the airfield. I haven't really used the altitude performance yet. I really ought to. Where is that bomber? Oh, he must be absolutely on the floor, or he sold me a pup and he's really up high. Still got shot down. Ground attacker there. Let's go see if we can take this sector. Oh, okay. It's easy as that. More manoeuvrable than in the 109 TL generally, so in theory I've got this. In theory. I have. It's been really annoying. Finally I get the team that's stronger. Having had 3 weak teams, or 3 teams charitably concentrating very hard on getting their candies, I finally get one that's playing a little bit better. I hope I haven't just jinxed it there. I assume he's not going to drop a bomb there because he's going up. And again, lose the engine. That's the P-80A that I was worried about. Let's hope something else is going to help me. He's busy. I'll try and take him out in that case. Meeting. Oops. Something else coming in behind me. And instantly shoots at my gun. Why am I not running away? Again, I'm trying to use the gunner. I shouldn't be. Still, I managed to actually get that right that time. Need to get the escort. Heavy is this. Well, he was coming for me. I was fairly confident about that engagement. Anyway. Now, the P-80A looks like he's busy, so he may give me the opportunity to shoot him. Let's go and find that bomber. Who? I was looking forward to shooting that. I just realised there's a whole load of chat I've missed because I've got it slightly above scrolling, so I do apologise everyone. I'm now going to deal with chat. I'm being incompetent with the turret, Nicolad. I wouldn't read too much into that. My problem is I've got the pitch up on key G and the turret on T, and I keep hitting both of them, which means I'm taking myself out of the turret at the wrong time, and I'm also hitting pitch up when I don't want to be, so don't read too much into that. But yeah, if you've got pitch up, use it, but don't use it instead of running away, which I have been doing. That turret isn't quite strong enough to just sit there and go, you're coming at me, I'm going to kill you with my turret. It's not a bomber turret. When does the Candy Cane event end? If somebody hasn't already answered that, I think it's the 21st of January. So you've got another 3 weeks plus of this, I'm afraid. Teams playing like Muppets. Although, to be fair, I think they're playing like Muppets anyway, but there you go. I don't know, Paul. I noticed the criticals. We were all starting to notice lots more critical damage before the CIS players come across. I suspect it's come in with patch 2.1.16. It's horrible. The amount of criticals you're getting now is unbelievable. And it makes it really hard. Okay. Like an XP-54? Yeah. Just bear in mind that you haven't got high DPS on this aircraft. What you do have is a decent burst length, but then the XP-54 has that as well. At least they've avoided giving it massive DPS and a long burst length like the XP-54. However, what you have got, which I don't know if you saw the start of the video, you've got superb accuracy on these guns. Very much reminiscent of the guns of the Pancake in 2018 before it got nerfed. You won't have trouble landing your shots with this. Skunkbeard, you've mentioned before you think the XP-54 should have 50 cals. Yep. Wouldn't be a bad nerf in my opinion. Would be a good one actually, and more realistic as well, I suspect. Yeah, the Skunkbeard. It's an easy heavy to fly. I can imagine a lot of players flying the P-61 because it's so easy to fly. And I'm not flying it well. Let's be absolutely clear here. I am not flying this aircraft well at the moment. That's through tiredness. Partly, and also because I'm not familiar with the aircraft, and slightly because I haven't absolutely tweaked out that build to the maximum potential. But you can see there were situations there that ME-109TL, I stuck on his tail and I knew I could outturn him, and I did. The P-80A, the DPS was fine. The one thing I'm not getting right at the moment is the use of the turret. I'm too inclined to take my finger off the boost button and just try and shoot things down with the turret. I don't think that's a good idea. And if you are going to do it though, make sure you use that pitch up at the right moments to try and avoid your line of fire being blocked. And it doesn't fire downwards either. I'll tell you what reminds the engines, and here's the thing, you can't do anything about the engines unless you're going to put on engine armour protection and just do away with any thought of going for speed or quite a lot of manoeuvrability as well. The XF90. The number of times that gets its engines knocked out, and nowadays it's almost like somebody shoots at you and your engine's gone. I definitely feel there's something about the criticals in the game which is not to my liking whatsoever. It now seems like every engagement you go into, you're going to try and use your advantage. If it's manoeuvrability, you instantly get your tail shot out by the only shot the enemy plane lands. If you're going to use speed, you get your engine knocked out by the only shot the enemy plane lands. And it's so frustrating because it means that instead of engagements being skill-based, they're now criticals-based. And I think that takes away from the game quite a lot. And I suspect It's why the CIS players ram a lot. I suspect this is the setting that's been on the CIS server. And they don't pull out of rams, and we're all going, how stupid is that? Well, if you think about it, if they think, well, I'm just going to get critical to death if I pull out of the ram, and then I'll die anyway, I may as well just ram. It's only a theory. There's no proof. But I'm going to see if I can get Wargaming to answer the question, but I suspect it's the kind of question they wouldn't want to answer anyway. They're not communicative like they used to be in 2017 and 2018. Far from it. They'd rather not communicate with the Westerners at all. Sorry, that's an old-fashioned comment. The team that was based in Kiev, in the Eastern Europe, the team that was based in Eastern Europe did not want to talk to Western players. Of course, that's all changed because they've all gone. Winter Manures 2 comes out. Yeah, of course, that's yet to come as well. You're right. Okay, Skunkbeard, yes, you've mentioned it. You're on the cusp of unlocking a load of tier 10s. Enjoy those when you get to them. To be truthful, Nicolad, I don't see why... The reason people buy it, to be fair, is because they know they haven't... One of the reasons why they buy it, to be fair, is because they know they haven't got the time to do this grind. Let me just talk about the grind for a moment or two. I've done it in effectively 9 days, 600 candies, but I have played an enormous amount of hours to do that. If you had daily missions which were favourable, I was getting something like about 10, maybe 15 candies an hour at best. Well, if you do the maths, let's say it's 10 candies per hour. 60 hours of play to get this aircraft squeezed into 9 days. You can see how hard I've been working. A lot of people have got to go back to work between Christmas and New Year. They're just not going to have the time to do the candy trail. And those who know this to be the case may very well just end up buying the aircraft straight out. Interestingly, Mark Visser, who was in earlier, I don't know if he's still in now, Flying Dutchman, he bought the aircraft outright because there are no centre bags this year. So he had the money saved up to buy centre bags, and there were no centre bags, so he just simply said, oh, I'll buy the aircraft then. So there's lots of reasons for buying the aircraft. Principally, the main one is that just the inordinate amount of time it's going to take people to grind 600 candies. Even to grind half that number is going to take 30 hours, if you're lucky, and 3/4 of that number. Bearing in mind that it's still an expensive aircraft at half the candies. So, yeah, do as much as you can, folks. But and there are those who've just got plenty of money. Lucky them, they can afford to just go and buy a Pixel plane straight off. I could have. I didn't want to do that for a couple of reasons. I wanted to have the experience of going through the candy cane so I could feel the pain of everybody who'd done the candy cane, and I'd done it properly, although I have shortcutted the specialisation path and used tokens for that because I can. Lucky me. And also I don't want to fling 90, 80 quid at Wargaming for a tier 8 premium. I think it's too much. Even with all the other prizes thrown in, I still think it just feels too much. I felt like I was being gouged, being asked to pay that kind of price. But I'm lucky, I had 60 hours available to me. A lot of people won't. Skunkbeard, you assume the worst of people, and well, you're going to repel people when you don't need to. But then always thinking the best of people, you're going to get taken advantage of when you don't need to. The answer lies, surprisingly enough, in between the two. Use your judgment to trust but verify. God, Ronald Reagan used to say that a lot. I never really wanted to be associated with Ronald Reagan, but he used to use that on Mikhail Gorbachev a lot. Okay, well, Skunkbeard, yes, the P-51 is in that same kind of area as the P-80A. If the P-80A is potentially a really good counter to this aircraft, then I think the P-51, as you said earlier, potentially is as well. The problem is the amount of time you're going to have to spend behind the aircraft trying to shoot it down when it's got 650 to 700 hit points. English only. Oops. Yeah, the F-84B will certainly stick on its tail, but again, the F-84B low TPS, so you're going to be taking time out, and time is critical in the game. But you'll be able to do it. No, not the XP-52, and not even necessarily the F-2G, because you'll get outturned. The XP-72 will get outturned, so I would not engage the P-61 one-on-one with an XP-72, because basically I will just turn your ass inside out and shoot you down. Closer run thing with the F-2G, but I'd still fancy my chances. Wow, flighted P-61 specialised. Okay. Jawas will do severe damage to this and outturn them as well, so yeah, you need to be a little bit careful about going for those. And you'd have to have it up to 72. You'd have to have really special equipment on this aircraft to be able to even get close to outturning a Jawa, an unspecialised one at that. A specialised one, you probably not have a chance. So yeah, you want to be careful about going after the J7Ws. I don't like calling them Jawas. I really don't like that term. J7s. Personal thing. No offence to those who do use it. Yeah. Not comfortable going against B-29s. No fear about going after RB-17s. The Dora will hit the P-61 hard if it gets the chance. It will then get absolutely outturned and wrecked. So be careful. You need to kill it or die if you're going to be in the Tier 7 Focke-Wulf 190. Yeah, Acting King, you're doing that. I don't want to be mean, but that's exactly what you shouldn't be able to do with the B-29C, and you shouldn't do it. I think it's unfair on everybody to abuse an aircraft like that, and I think that is abuse. Yeah, people will argue, you may very well argue, and you'd be right to argue, well, if Wargaming lets me do it, why shouldn't I? I say the opposite. I say Wargaming need to fix that, but we should be responsible and not abuse our aircraft, and that's why I say people shouldn't fly the EF-131 and the B-29C to excess, but people do. I will say this, now that we've had the CIS players over, I realise that a lot of the European players were really restrained in their use, with only one or two exceptions, where there are people spamming and spamming and spamming those overpowered bombers. And now we've got the CIS people who just spam them to death. I suddenly realised just how very restrained the European population had been. It's a real shame. Wargaming needs to nerf those aircraft, and basically, Acting King, what you've just said there about flying the B-29C and parking it over, say, an airfield and stopping people, doing area denial, which is what you're doing, that ability needs to be taken away from that aircraft. Basically, if you do that, you should be shot down and feel very sorry for yourself and skulk off to the hangar for 20-30 seconds and then go off and bomb properly. Nothing personal, Acting King, but that's one of the reasons why I don't fly the B-29C and I don't fly the EF-131. Well, you can't do the gunshipping with the EF-131, but for other reasons I don't fly the high-tier bombers, because they wreck the game. CIS players don't care, which is why I've asked Wargaming again to nerf those bombers. I don't think it's going to happen, which means that the future of the game doesn't look good to me, because if we're going to have this relentless bomber spam, 5 bombers and GAAs per match, every match more or less at tier 10, why would you ever bother grinding any of the tech tree aircraft? Why would you? Because you're just going to go up and be in a world of pain in battles that are absolutely horrible. Nicolad, in theory, no, not in theory, this aircraft will absolutely outturn a Dora. Full stop, end of story. Do not try and turn with this in a Dora, you're just going to get hammered. And in fact, if you're anywhere near one of these P-61s and it's a one-in-one engagement, then unless you happen to get on its tail and kill it straight, you are going to lose every time. Martelloc, not quite sure. The increased critical hits, the game design faults. Much more you enhance and calibrate your plane and equipment, you collect more and more negative stats. Yeah, that's not really, in my opinion, that's not the explanation for the increased critical hits. You would have seen that a long time ago with all of my aircraft, bar some 17 of the bombers are specialised and got high-level enhanced equipment, and I've never known the criticals noticed the criticals being a factor until recently. And this is before the CIS players came in. We started noticing it because the bots are doing the criticals as well. I don't think that's the explanation, but thank you for the opinion. Skunkbeard, SE100 turret. In a way, it is more nasty because the front guns don't always finish things off, but you can finish things off with that super long range, heavy hitting turret if anything is stupid enough to follow you at distance in the SE100. So in a sense, yes, it is stronger. Dobro. Hello, Dobro! How are you? Dobro is a Russian streamer of World of Warplanes. I think YouTube, or maybe I've got that wrong. Also the writer of several mods for this game, unfortunately in Russian language, which means that it's pretty hard for people like me to use them, but very active in the World of Warplanes community on the CIS side. Good to see you, Dobro. Sorry, there's an awful lot of chat, which I've missed. Yeah, Martelock, I've already said I don't think that it's in special enhancing your equipment that's causing the problem with criticals. I know what you're saying, and there's logic to what you're saying, but I don't think that's the reason for what we're seeing. Thank you for highlighting, Martelock, that Dobro is a streamer, possibly on Trovo as well, I'm not sure. Certainly YouTube channel is available. Russian language, for those of you who can speak Russian, I strongly recommend you visit Dobro. Lots of good stuff there. Even I pick up good stuff from there, and I don't understand the language, so there you go. I guess, Nicolad, why would you buy it at the beginning? Because you can. Or you've already decided you haven't got the time to do the grind. Or you don't want to do the grind, which is, to be fair, the grind is pretty tedious, isn't it? Skunkbeard's plan is to grind as far as he can. Absolutely. That's the way to do it, in my opinion. The plane is very good. I bought it. To be fair, I'm not feeling it so far. I prefer my heavies to have big, heavy DPS, and I'm not feeling this one. I like the manoeuvrability. To be fair, I'm not playing it properly because I'm really tired. But I haven't fallen in love with it instantly. This is not one of those aircraft when I've gone, yeah, as soon as I fly it. It's kind of like, yeah, it's all right. And I can see that if I play it a bit better, it's going to be a powerful aircraft. Don't get me wrong. It's very easy to fly. I'm already of the opinion this is probably not an aircraft I'm going to love. But I think I probably will like it. I might change my opinion as time goes on. It's very early days yet. But yeah, there's already people I know who really like it. And as I say, I haven't got the manoeuvrability anywhere near the kind of manoeuvrability figure that some of those people are achieving. And I'm probably not going to get much more than about 68 here. But once I've got that, I might even might like it a bit more. It's certainly not a bad plane. Let's put it this way. If you spent 60 hours grinding it, then unless you're an out-and-out speed demon and the single engine slot bothers you, I don't think you're going to be too upset with what you get. You certainly aren't getting a duffer, let's put it that way. Well, I've just given you my conclusion, but it's not really a conclusion after 4 games, Markovic, Flying Dutchman. I like high DPS on my heavies, and I'm not comfortable with the low DPS on this one. If it had ordnance, I'd then feel a lot more comfortable, but it doesn't have ordnance. That said, I'm perfectly aware I'm not flying it very well at the moment because I'm blasted tired. Oh, bombing is boring. Yeah. Kind of think the F-82E and the P-82B aren't I like the versatility there. I certainly don't like being in an aircraft with just bombs, even though the Russian bombers are fairly versatile compared to certainly the German ones, and the American ones just bore me to death. And then there's also the reverse effect of knowing that there are overpowered bombers in the game, which I absolutely hate. the F131, the Su-10, the B-29C, and that colours my attitude towards all bombers. Yeah, you do have a filthy build. And I might try and do a bit more. I'm not sure I can pronounce that. I can get the sir, and then the next bit of it is Dobro. It's between Dobro and Markovich's comment. Anyway, whoever you are, I'm not going to try and mangle your name. Hello to you. Okay, try and keep it in English, please, though. English only. Sorry, I'm a monoglot Englishman. It's terrible. I know because we speak English in this country, none of us bother to. Well, I say none of us. Very few of us ever bother to learn another language properly, and I never did. But that's despite the fact I've got quite a lot good facility for languages. But because English is so prevalent everywhere, we're really lazy. So it's my fault. But can you please only keep it to English? I am going to have to translate that, and I will. I'm sure it's fine though. My apologies, but I must insist on English in chat, because otherwise anything could be being said in chat. And then I would be possibly in trouble. Very interesting, but not clear. I'm not sure what is very interesting, but not clear. Please only keep it to English. I am going to have to translate that, and I will.
Hi everyone, it's Quickie Baby, and welcome back to World of Tanks. And firstly...
Go away. But I must insist on English in chat, because otherwise... Okay, fine. Sorry, I managed to... Sorry for that. First, and I'm also particularly sorry that you got to hear a bit of Quickie Baby there. I've no idea how that video came up. Not one I'd selected. Apparently, YouTube thinks that I'd be interested in a Quickie Baby video. Picasso, can I recommend, rather than me show you... Well, I can show you what I've got on now, but right at the start of the video, I spent quite a long time discussing alternative builds. So when this video is posted on YouTube, could I suggest you go and watch the start of it, and then you'll get several ideas which you can build upon. I've gone for a manoeuvrability build for the moment, though. Wow, I am tired. I can't even click in the right place. So that's a manoeuvrability build there. But you're not limited to that. The key thing is, though, you've got 2 airframe slots for this heavy, but not 2 engine slots, which is unusual, which means that the speed build is a bit difficult. Okay? But do watch the start of this video when it's posted in the live section, and you'll get lots of information about builds which you could potentially use to your own advantage and help you with your build. Okay? I'm just going to confine myself to saying British people, when it comes to languages, are generally very lazy. And it's a real shame, because you're missing out on a whole world. Alexa, stop. I'm being told that I need to go and feed the cats by Alexa. I actually think it reflects badly on us, and it also deprives us of the experience of knowing other cultures the way other cultures think. If I had my time again, I would pursue my language studies much more vigorously than ever I did. I would love to be fluent in French or German or Mandarin, or even Welsh. Mein Bodenglauben drum heavy. We miss out on a lot by not speaking other languages. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. But there it is. It's a fact. DPS, I think it's 543. Oh, actually, I put on an experiment. Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, 543. I haven't tweaked that as much as I probably could. Again, if you've got special project equipment or experimental equipment, you can bash up the DPS here, and possibly on the bonus characteristics here, you could do that as well. There's a lot more I can do. I'm going to emphasize, thank you for making this comment, Mark. I'm going to emphasize again, if you go back and watch the start of the video and see the various builds, bear in mind that is not the be-all and end-all of everything you can do. You can really work at it and tweak things here, and possibly find that you can get things much higher than I've got them. My figures are only indicative, a suggestion as to what you could do. You can and will do better on the things that interest you if you pursue it and look at it closely. I've told you where to look. It's up to you to go and select all the characteristics, the blend of pilot skills, the blend of bonus characteristics, the blend of equipment and calibration, consumables, and get them to give you what you want. So I've got 543 there. Okay. Gibberish is my second language. Crude Anglo-Saxon is my second language. Right, let's have one more battle. I've done a lot of talking. I can feel my throat beginning to tire. And then we'll get this video posted. I'll do some very basic chapterization so you can see where the build discussion is, but then it's easy enough. It's at the start of the video. I did that deliberately. And then you can have a look at the battles. But to be fair, the battles are sort of like, I haven't distinguished myself in this aircraft. I don't feel particularly at home with it at the moment. I haven't tweaked it out to the maximum. And it's not really my sort of heavy. Because it lacks the versatility of the P-82B or the F-82E lacking ordnance, and I don't like the low DPS, but I also am aware I am flying it extremely badly. No, that's unfair. I'm flying it poorly on occasion, and that's down to tiredness, having done 60 hours of grinding in the last 9 days. I was tempted to go and, do you know what, let's just go and see if we can play at the plant. And this time let's actually try and use the altitude performance. I have not been using the altitude performance at all on stream. Using the Alt button to see where the cones of flak fire are, because they're not the same as the sectors. Why is my map so small? Must have hit that at some point. Just realised how small the minimap was. Right, so we're looking for bombers, and I suspect their human bomber went over here. So what have we got here? Apparently I'm target practice for the flak because nothing has come here. Okay, well I've been suckered on this occasion, haven't I? Let's go off to the garrison. Oh. Fortunately I need to get rid of the escorts first. Just found the bomber at the garrison. Rare turret kill. Looks like the bomber's been killed. You're dead. Stop firing at me. No. Okay, now, basically now I've repaired the engine. Should be an easy kill. Wasn't wrong. Shouldn't be fighting at the garrison, but I'm here. Alright, let's get to the mining plant. That's where I really belong. And once again we see the CIS players absolutely will not and do not defend. Just absolutely zero interest in defending. Does my head in. sorry if I'm boring my CIS friends. Realise that with you playing tactically and employing defence as a means to win games is very often not the kind of thing you want to be doing. It is the kind of thing I want to be doing. And I think this is the first time I've taken on a full health LB-17 and no bother. Apart from being critical, of course. Oh, well done. Wow. Putting in a bit of defensive work, Heavy. Well played XP-58, I quite like that. Of course, I'm complaining about the criticals I get, but of course I'm also getting criticals. So, well, the bomber's over garrison. I don't mind if he takes the garrison, but I may as well go and kill him whilst he's over there, as opposed to... he's low, actually. I mean, altitude-wise, but he's also low on health as well. Lovely accuracy on the guns. That's one thing I really do like. Foregoing, please give me 2 equipment slots for repair kits. Typical of an engagement these days. I went in at the fighter, very first shot, takes out my engine. Bit of a stomp, nothing to do with me. I did the right things. The amazing thing to me was nobody at the plant right at the start, but I was able to take the garrison, play over here, deal with the 1056 very easily, take out the bombers, very casual sort of game. And you saw the interesting thing there was going up against a full health RB-17. Now, a really well tricked out RB-17 would probably do more criticals to you, but I don't think you're going to have trouble taking out RB-17s with this aircraft. B-29Cs, different story. You need to approach those very carefully. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a ton of information on the P-61B, right, P-61 Black Widow, right at the start of the video. Builds that you might consider, how you might go about trying to tweak the aircraft to your satisfaction. I've got a lot more to do before I come up with a firm opinion. I'm not in love with this aircraft, but I think it's very easy to fly. I think it's a decent aircraft. If you've invested 60 hours or however many hours it is grinding for it, I hope you're not going to be disappointed with it. Apart from the fact that I don't think reward aircraft should be better than Tetri aircraft, but that's a different debate entirely. Okay, so this video, of course, now will go up for posterity on YouTube. I will go back, check the timings on it, I will chapterize it, but it will be very broad chapterization. Basically, it will be introductory first impressions, which where I discuss the livery, the slots, the things like that, then the builds, and then the battles. That's your lot, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed presenting this aircraft to you. Whoops, stream starting soon. Stream is actually ending, I'm afraid, ladies and gents. So all of you who've come out to watch this, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I hope you found that informative and that you'll come and see my future content. Whatever part of the day you're all in, I hope the rest of it goes pleasantly for you. I should probably be streaming on Twitch tomorrow morning, depending on how tired I feel. And I may do a YouTube stream in the afternoon as well, as I can. If I can see you then, I'd really like that. And if I don't see you then, I'm sure I will catch you all again soon. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out. Bye, everyone.